What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of At a Glance, a series in which I give you an appetizer, sample, or glimpse into a particular faction in 40k. And the goal behind it is to help you decide if you want to look further into that faction on your own, or maybe even start collecting that faction as well. Now, up on the chopping block this time by viewer request is the World Eaters. And I'm assuming, not assuming, because I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming that we're looking at post-heresy Chaos Space Marine World Eaters here. So that's what I'm going to be looking at it as. The World Eaters were one of the original legions. They went traitor. They're one of the 4 legions that are what I call cult legions, in that the legion is wholly devoted to one particular chaos god, in their case, Khorne. So what you have is a legion fully devoted to blood for the blood god, essentially. Now, the World Eaters were always highly aggressive, very berserkery, highly volatile, assault, shock, troops extraordinaire, really good at what they do, and may come across as simple-minded or simpletons or, maybe even dumb, but that is a dangerous thing to assume on the World Eaters. The World Eaters definitely have a cunning, there's a strategy to what they do. They are still superhuman. They were Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines basically being just evil Space Marines. Before even worshipping Khorne specifically, they still have all of the superior training and equipment and capabilities that Space Marines have, and they're devoted to the Chaos God Khorne. It's on top of that, which just bolsters the capabilities that they want, which is aggressive, close combat capabilities. So they are a very dangerous foe, not to be taken lightly just because they want to get their grips with you and rip you apart. Chief among them, of course, being one of the greatest champions of Khorne, is Karn, and Karn is very dangerous as well just by himself. So, a very dangerous force, but a legion no longer. In the 31st millennium, after the Horus Heresy happened, you have chaos fighting itself because that's what it does. In the Battle of Skalathrax, I believe, or something like that, the World Eaters were fighting the Emperor's children. It was a demon world, and at night it becomes frigidly cold, lethal even to the Chaos Space Marines, so they have to seek shelter. Karn being basically an avatar of Khorne, the blood god incarnate in terms of the attributes that you would have being a devotee of Khorne, was furious at this setback. There's enemies to slay, and you dare seek shelter. I don't care if it's cold out there and it'll kill you. You go out there and you kill them. Is his mindset. So he picked up a flamer and torched all the settlements. Well, not settlements, shelters really. Settlements sounds a lot bigger. Torched all the shelters. World Eaters, Emperor's Children, doesn't matter. He slayed everybody he came across that resisted him. So you had a big battle erupt where World Eaters were facing World Eaters as well as facing the Emperor's Children. And it was horrendous for both sides, and a lot of the World Eaters present were probably killed, and this caused the remaining World Eaters of that legion to fracture into separate small warbands that have never reunited since. So the World Eaters are fractured, and that's probably for the best because the first War of Armageddon happened in the 41st millennium, and that's when Angron led some World Eaters and a whole bunch of Khorne mutants and demons and cultists and traitor titans and all that onto the world of Armageddon, fighting against the Imperium. And if the World Eaters were united as a legion still, the battle probably would have went very differently because there would have been a lot more World Eaters present, and it probably would not have gone in the favor of the Imperium. So, thanks, Karn, inadvertently, I guess. But yes, during the First War of Armageddon, World Eaters were present, 4 companies worth, essentially 4 different warbands. Angron's Chosen, which was his own warband, and then you have the things like the Forsworn, and then 2 warbands that are basically named for their leader, essentially. And that's how it works. You have warbands of the World Eaters that have a name either of the leader or a name like the Forsworn or something. What gets kind of tricky is, with the exception of the Crimson Slaughter, anything that's painted red and devoted to Khorne tends to get lumped into World Eaters. And it's not always the case. There are some Khorne devotees out there, Khorne, Chaos Space Marine warbands, that are not World Eaters. They were they're just renegade Space Marines, or whatever the case may be, or Ward Bearers who are devoted to Khorne. But those things, because they look very similar to the World Eaters, and because they're dressed accordingly to worship Khorne, get lumped into the World Eaters. So it can be a little difficult to find official World Eaters warbands that are actually World Eaters and not just renegade chapters turned to Chaos Space Marines or something else along those lines. But either way, what you're looking at is a blood red color scheme with brass trimming, and utilizing the World Eater symbol, either just the gaping maw that's going to be eating something, like the world usually that's inside of it, or a maw eating a world, which is the World Eater symbol. Either way, those are the symbols you're going to see on World Eater warbands. What you do is up to you. You can add your own personal touch to it with your own personal symbol. For your warband of Khorne, that was a World Eater's warband. You could add more brass, you can add some black to it, you could even maybe have their shoulder pads say blue in representation of their original Legion color scheme being white and blue, or whatever you want. You can add your own little flavor to it, your own little spin, but the traditional colors, of which every World Eater warband basically has, so they all, no matter what they are, look the same for the most part, is red with brass trimming. So that's their color scheme. Very straightforward, very easy, very efficient, and looks the part nicely. But unfortunately, because World Eater warbands all look the same, you're not really going to have any real visual distinction innately, unless you add a visual distinction to make the Forsworn seem different from Angron's Chosen, for example. So, with that said, that's the color scheme. Now, when it comes to collecting a World Eater's force, the easiest way to go is the Chaos Space Marine Codex. You could either make up your own Chaos Lord or use Karn the Betrayer and roll with it that way. I say it's the easiest because that's how it's always been. But we also have the Khorne Demon King Codex, which can also be made. My understanding, and I don't own the book, but I have been able to page through it before, and I do believe, if I remember correctly, you can build a Chaos Space Marine warband devoted to Khorne out of that book still, or as well, I should say. So, with that being the case, you can definitely go ahead and utilize that codex to make your World Eater's warband if you just want it to be different and feel different. So you have that option as well. And with that, when it comes to kits, they, if you're going to have Rhinos or Land Raiders or Defilers or whatever the case may be as part of your force, the Chaos kits are going to work well for you from GW and from Forge World. Some of the World Eater specific Horus Heresy stuff could be put to good effect and to good use there as well for your World Eater's Chaos force. And in specifics, if you're going to basically have Khorne Berserkers as your powered armored infantry solely, that's going to be the kit you might want to focus on. Maybe even mix and match that kit with a Chaos Space Marine kit if you want to have Havocs or Chaos Space Marine squads in there as well as your Khorne Berserker squad. So those kits are going to work fine. You could even perhaps have some Loyalist Space Marine kit or bits from those kits as well, maybe as trophies or whatever the case may be, but the Chaos kits will work just fine. So you have at your disposal the kits you'll need to really make the force your own. And how you enhance the look and how you kit bash or do certain things in the painting process to make it your own, that'll be up to you and your imagination. But you have the framework for a World Eater specific force, and from there you just gotta make it your own. So all those things will work just fine for a World Eater's force. So with that said, there's not much else I can really go into with them as an at-a-glance. Just remember, kill, maim, burn, and blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne, and you should be okay. Right there is your whole tactic priority mindset, or how it should be. But again, they are super soldiers. They are Space Marines in terms of their training and their war gear equipment, so they have superior training, superior war gear, they have the experience. They are a very dangerous threat, not to be taken lightly just because they want to rip you to shreds with their bare hands. This can also lead to really cool paint job ideas for adding gore effects to them as well. Yeah, they're going to be this red armor with brass trimming, but from there you can have their chain axes gored up with maybe some green stuff, to add the gore, like chunks of meat onto their chain axe, or even sometimes glue can do that. And then you can use, to me, a clear red for gore effect with some black wash and stuff added in there to make it look chunky and gory and really give yourself kind of almost like a slasher fic feel to your World Leaders force, on top of maybe kit bashing stuff for trophies and the like. And you can really have a lot of fun with it if you really want to go crazy and personalize it that way. But anyways, that's it for the World Leader, so thanks for sticking through it. If you have any questions, comments, or requests for any faction in 40k, feel free to post it in the comment section and I will get to it. And until next time, take it easy.